So we've got a little bit of a controversy floating around the community, and this is about the cutting up the championship playmat trend that's going around in an effort to split top four or split top eight, as they've been kind of joking about it. So to clarify, which I do think this is kind of funny, as far as I'm concerned, this trend was which I don't think they meant to start a trend, but like the trend, so to speak, was started actually by Team Rebirth. So I just have to acknowledge that before we give our opinions about this. I am on Team Rebirth.
That was the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I do believe that's like the start of it. They didn't though, like it wasn't a trend in the sense that they like, you know, hashtagged it or anything and encouraged people to do it. People just kind of started doing it, and now it's become this sort of like thing. So I've only found 3 instances of this, but I do think it's fair to say that, you know, this has been generating some chatter, regardless of if more people aren't cutting it up. Just the fact that people had kind of just ruffled some feathers. Some people didn't mind so much, so naturally we're just gonna kind of give our opinion on this, and hopefully break down what everybody's been talking about. So where do you stand? What do you think on cutting up the set championship first place playmat?
I mean, I think it's great. You know, I didn't even plan this, but I forgot. You know, obviously, I always just have money sitting next to me, and people get furious when I do that on live streams. Like, the comments section is like unbelievable. People tell me I need to donate to charity and stuff like that. It's hilarious.
They don't know. They don't know.
I know. I mean, when you just got it like that, you got it like that. No, but on a serious note, you know, like hilariously enough, you didn't see it because you were working, and I didn't tell you that I did it before you said, "Hey, maybe we should talk about this." I just made a meme on Twitter about this.
That's right. I didn't see it.
Like, you messaged me. I was like, "Oh God, you gotta go check out my tweet." Like maybe we can put it as a thumbnail or in the video or something.
Yeah, I'll put the tweet up right here so that people can see it.
Yeah, and like you know, personally, I don't care either way. I think it's fine, whatever. I like attention, so I made a tweet about it.
Yeah.
And I wrote that. I said, you know, this is really common practice, like not just in Disney Lorcana, but like, you know, what happened when Kaepernick started kneeling in the NFL? People started burning their Nike gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Kanye got dropped from Adidas, people started burning their Yeezys, stuff like that. You know, I can name 30 other things. I'm sure people out there have their own things that they can remember people doing. And it's always a joke. It's always like, oh, great protest. You've ruined something you spent money on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like at the end of the day, they were going to own that playmat anyway, whether it sat in a drawer for the rest of eternity, or they cut it up and had a mouse pad and had a laugh about it, and maybe they pull it out of the drawer 5 years from now and have a laugh about it. It doesn't really affect the people that are out there. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think ultimately we're big proponents of like, do what you want to do. You know, I feel like we've taken that stance time and time again when these different things come up, whether it be like about paywalls or, you know, whatever else we've kind of discussed on this channel. I think truly it didn't bother me that they cut up the playmat. I my first reaction when he sent it to me, Rebirth Dreams, well, he sent it to all of us in the chat and was like, we split before he tweeted it. And I honestly thought it was funny. I was like, that's crazy. At first I thought it was Photoshop. But to be honest, the only reason that I thought it was Photoshop is just because I didn't think Lorcana players would, I guess, want to do that in the sense of like not wanting to have a true winner, quote unquote. I've always believed like that people would want to like play it out for the mat. And so when I realized, you know, people weren't really, this was another set championship where people weren't too excited about, let's say, the card choice or the promo choice, you know, in Hiro Hamada, similar to like Mirabelle. People weren't really, I don't even think I played in a Mirabelle set championship. I was busy, but still, like normally I try to make at least one. I think it was one of those things where like it really just kind of showed me that it was less about people, you know, like trying to like be mean spirited, and it was more about like, we just really don't think this prizing or this prize support is all that great. You know, everybody gets a promo in top 8, so they all, you know, were walking away with the promo, and they didn't want to play it out for 3 hours just for, you know, one of them to end up in the finals with nothing, right? Because they got rid of the second place mat, and one of them to, you know, walk away with it. So I think they just decided to save themselves the couple of hours on something that just wasn't all that desirable to them as players. And I truly think that was like all it was. This isn't even like coming from Dreams. I have not spoken to him about this. I don't even think he knows I'm making this video. This is just my opinion of like what I think the spirit of people cutting up the playmats is like, sure, some people can take it as like them kind of like spitting on the prize support, but I think it's more like a way to just kind of like include everybody. A lot of people are calling them mouse pads, joking around about being like mouse pad crew, and I think that's like a fun way to look at it, of like, rather than, you know, kind of doing some more grinding, we can just celebrate making it to top 8. Everybody got something, you know, and move on, cut it up, and we all have a piece of the prize. And I think in that way it's really not that big of a deal to me personally.
Yeah, you know, people have been so stressed this season just because of the second place mat. And I mean, this is going to sound shady. Like, it's going to sound like I'm throwing shade, but some of the people that have expressed this to me have never even top 8'd a set champs before. So I don't know why it affects them attending any. Like, I would have thought, like, I know people who went to set champs, walked in, and there were way more people than they expected, and they left.
Oh wow.
And they have played in every other set champs, and they've never top 8'd a single one. So I would have thought they would be thrilled just to get like the participation promo, because previously they were getting nothing.
Right.
So like, it wasn't like they were going to get the second place mat anyway. And then I had one friend who did not play in any, and he actually has top 8'd more than half that he's played in, but he has never gotten past top 4. So he always felt like, I was this close to making the finals and probably this close from actually winning the thing. And now I feel like making the finals means nothing. So I'm just not going to play in them, especially when like a lot of stores aren't doing prize support this time around, which could be a whole other video.
Right.
But yeah, like I get it. I played in less than I normally would, and I don't like feel bad moments in local game stores. I expressed that with the Stitch tournaments. I felt like the biggest piece of garbage winning like my 2nd through 6th Stitch against people that didn't have them, and they had made top 8, and like top 8 should be something to be celebrated. So, you know, I get it. And like, I also don't want to make top 8, and then the only difference between top 8 and the finals is getting exactly first place. So I haven't really been encouraged to go out and play in any. Honestly, if the store cut it up beforehand, which they can't obviously, I'd probably be more inclined to go to the store.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, really the bigger conversation about why it's happening is more because I think it's kind of players' way of letting Ravensburger know that, you know, taking away the second place playmat was a mistake, you know, and I think that's fair to say. Obviously, ultimately, it's a win in the sense that, you know, everybody who gets to who participates gets something is nice, and it's nice that they're taking, you know, set championships in that direction, especially for players like you said that always feel discouraged and like feel like they've never made a top 8. It's nice that everybody can get some sort of promo, and, you know, it incentivizes going to, let's say, 4 of them to have a play set of that promo, but I think ultimately, right, they missed the mark with not having a second place mat, and I think that's like a widely felt sentiment, and similarly to how a lot of people were upset about, you know, only 1st through 4th getting a promo back into the Inklands Store Championships, and they made that change to top 8. I think we'll see that second place playmat come back if what I believe to be true about, you know, Ravensburger and how they do things is in fact true. The other thing about this though, right, we have to talk about it. Obviously for us, seems like no big deal. Are the people who like are insulted by this, and it's the people who, you know, feel like they've worked or are working, you know, so hard every weekend through these set championships to try to get a first place, to try to get that playmat, just to turn around and see other people cutting it up. I can understand conceptually why that's like upsetting. You know, like if it's something that truly, you know, getting first place in your first set championship means a lot to you. And I've said in a video, like that's a goal of mine for this year. I really didn't pursue it too hard with this one, but I'm sure when Fabled rolls around, I'll try a little bit harder. You know, I understand that being like a goal for someone to have, because, you know, it's kind of that like we talk about this all the time. It's that in between of DLCs, right? So a DLC, you know, and Worlds, those are like hyper competitive events that might be a little too far or a little too you know, out of reach for players of a certain skill level like myself to want to top something like that. But you know, something like topping locals might be a little too in the other direction, where it's a little too casual of an environment. So set champs kind of ends up being that middle ground where, you know, casual players can kind of test their skills, yada yada yada. I think the point being is just like when you work hard and you really want something, and then to see it just kind of be like undervalued by other players, it hurts, because it feels like, well, they could have given it to me, or like that could have gone to somebody who really wanted it, you know. But I think honestly for me, and this isn't like my dig at anybody else, this is like what I've observed in myself that I think I'm now observing in other people, is it just comes from like a place of like maybe like insecurity, or like needing to like prove something to yourself. Because I think before it was like, if I don't win, you know, a set championship, then that means I'm not a good player, or if I don't top 8 the set championship, that means I'm not a good player. I honestly think it kind of comes from that sort of place. This is pure speculation, where like people who are upset about it are just feeling a little like, oh, like, but I didn't like get the playmat, and so I feel like I'm not like a good enough player, the kind of player that I want to be, and so seeing them cut it up makes me like extra frustrated. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. Also, like, especially a lot of things that cause people anger are irrational in the moment,
Mm.
especially if you don't know anything about Disney Lorcana.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I just said to you, oh, somebody found a Super Nintendo game that was sealed and they opened it, like, you would be like, okay. But like someone who collects video games would be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like at the end of the day, like it's not clothing, it's not food. They didn't like buy a car and crash it. They didn't burn down a house. Like it wasn't something that you need to live. Like this is a hobby. This is something people do with their extra money. And all of them that were in the top 4 had 25% equity to win that tournament. And they decided that they would much rather spend their money on an experience,
Right,
than a physical product, which funny enough is like something that I now do in my life. Like obviously I'm going to Japan. I go to Florida a ton, and I try to teach my kids like, hey, let's not spend money on a toy that you're not going to want in 3 weeks. Let's go to Disney World and we'll take photos and like we'll think about this for the rest of your life.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's just kind of like you said, like that's what it is. It's players valuing the experience over like getting that individual title. For people that it's really important for them to get that title, makes sense why it kind of like stung for them a little bit. But I do think at the end of the day, like, you know, a playmat doesn't signify, you know, like how good you are as a player, and also it's not like the be all end all of like a Lorcana player's, you know, career. And so I think because of that, like if somebody was cutting up a golden Mickey, I think a lot more people would be a little more angry about it.
I went there. I mean, it's your property.
It's your pride. It's up to you. But like that, I think is like a little more extreme. But like, you know, I think something like a playmat that like a lot of the times, not necessarily that this is true, but like playmats kind of get like at a certain point they lose value. You know what I mean? Like you just get so many playmats, or you know, they give them out for free. It's just like that's, you know, it's like I think at the end of the day, people are like, you know what, we have the card, you know, and that's what matters. Let's just cut up the playmat and call it a day. The only other thing I wanted to kind of mention about this is Gabe of like Team Illuminati tweeted about this, and I actually really liked what he said. So I'll put it up on screen. I'm gonna read it from my phone. It says, everyone's talking about cutting playmats at set champs right now. If you want to cut a playmat, ... cut a playmat. If you don't want to cut the playmat, ... don't cut the playmat. The single greatest strength that Disney Lorcana has is its community. Time and time again, the community has stepped up to fill a void, to keep the game growing and thriving, and I love every moment that I've spent playing this game and interacting with its players and fans, and that includes the That includes the amazing employees at Ravensburger. If you want to cut the playmat so everyone can feel a part of something, I applaud you. It's cool to see people finding joy in that way. It should also be kind of a black eye on Ravensburger that people feel like they're forced to help their community in this way because the disparity in pricing going into top 8 is just rough for the hours invested. They feel they need to cut up the prize, basically. I just really agreed with kind of his sentiment there in saying, like, you know, this is people's way of sharing and creating more community, which Lorcana, you know, the Lorcana community has done time and time again in the absence of news. Obviously now we're getting a bunch of news. I think we're promised a weekly Lorecast or something like that, which is incredible. And, you know, Ravensburger's really working hard to kind of reverse some of those like lack of communication things going on. But at the end of the day, in them falling short of not having a second place playmat, I think he's right in saying this is just kind of the community doing what the community does. And in the same way that when we had no Worlds info for months on end, you know, we created tournaments and did LCCC and all these other things. This is just the community's way of being like, you know what, there's no second place mat. Let's just cut it up and have some fun. Yeah. And so I just wanted to echo that sentiment. And at the end of the day, you could always buy it. I'm sure it's cheap.
Yeah. Well, you know, shout out to Gabe, all of the Illuminati. Monty has the weakest handshake in the game. Everyone knows that. Yeah, I think that Ravensburger knew that like a participation thing was really important. I have a feeling someone higher than like a lot of the people at Ravensburger said, okay, well, it's not just going to come out of thin air. Like, we have budgetary restrictions for these things. So what are we going to get rid of to get this? And I think that set champs attendance is down drastically from what I've seen, which is interesting because I went to like the first one opening weekend and it was the store's highest attended event that they've ever had.
Oh, wow.
But part of that was me and Melissa advertising it. And then part of that was they actually had 2 cases in the prize support. So, and it was a $20 entry.
Nice.
So that was an anomaly, but I thought that was setting the tone. So I think that Ravensburger will, when they can, because, you know, this stuff gets printed months ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like all of the Fabled mats and Reign of Jafar mats and stuff like that might already be in Ravensburger's offices somewhere.
Right.
Like if they don't, I want the audience out there to know, if they don't just immediately switch something, they can't. They
just because they couldn't. Yeah.
I think everything that they're doing right now is way better than it was months ago, weeks ago. I think that they're doing a great job.
Yeah. So give it some time, and I'm sure this will remedy itself as well. At the end of the day, that's our thoughts, just our opinion. You can have your own. And in fact, please let us know what you think. Was this something that you saw it and it was like, I think this is in poor taste, or it kind of stings for me in particular because I've been really working for this mat? Or are you someone that's just like, whatever, I think it's funny and I appreciate the sense of community? Let us know. Something else I want to throw in is if you want us to talk about something or you have any questions, let us know. Maybe we'll make a video about it. I want to start doing that. I didn't run that by you, but maybe we'll start making videos based off of user suggestions.
All good. I mean, let's be honest. Our current way of making videos is, hey, this upsets some people and people will yell at us. Let's make a video about it. Because that's what's good for the algorithm. So
yeah, so if you have anything that you want to say or want us to talk about, or you have some feelings about, let us know. We'd love to discuss it. Other than that, though, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. It helps the channel out so much. And Dick's going to Japan, so you might as well hit the subscribe button so maybe you can see and hear some more of that Ravensburger Japan content coming soon. But besides that, don't forget to hit the like button, and we'll see you guys in the next one.